Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm okay. Hang on just a minute. Something happened in the 1990s when the very wealthy Chinese, and I bet you know this, the very wealthy Chinese started getting rid of money by buying Western art.
Mm-mm.
So I met a couple of them occasionally. They would come from China during a special week called Asian Art Week that was set up by Christie's and Sotheby's and some dealers. And they would arrive with bags of money, paper
Mm-mm.
bags of cash. And they would come and they would buy these extraordinary paintings, jewelry, and porcelains. And they would open that bag and they would just count out a lot of money.
Mm-mm.
So that was always very interesting to me. So when they started buying that art, they bought Warhols, they bought Modigliani's, they bought real Western art, not so much Chinese art. But when they did buy Chinese art, they were buying back their culture that was stolen.
I cannot understand. The
Okay,
culture was stolen.
the cultural objects. Yep. Um, when China was a little bit open around the turn of the 20th century, a
Mm-mm.
lot of people went there and they bought really beautiful pieces that had been taken from not sacred sites, but taken from museums and other places, palaces, and things like that. And they were looters or dealers. So a lot of and also America after in the 1940s, which would be after the war, developed a taste for Chinese aesthetics. And there was a big company in San Francisco called Gumps, which I think might be out of business, but it was a big department store. And they were the go to place for rich people who wanted to buy Chinese design. Well, a lot of that stuff was real old tables, beautiful old chairs, those incredible wardrobes. Um, so they would buy that and put it in their house, and they'd have their nice middle class house in suburbia, and it would be filled with Chinese antiques. So when the Chinese got rich, back in the 90s, more or less, correct me if I'm wrong, many of them did. They came to the Western auction houses, and in addition to buying Western paintings, they bought back the porcelain that was being consigned to the auction house. So, do you know the word consigned?
No.
Okay. So, when something is consigned, it means that one person
Mm-mm.
gives it to a third party to sell, like an auction house. So, the auction house would be in the middle. Person who wants to sell something might not have the audience or know how to do it, particularly before the internet. So he would take his beautiful Ming vase or his beautiful Qing dynasty chair, and he would take it to the auction house, and they would say, well, we sold something like this last year, and it commanded such and such a price. Say it commanded $2 million. So
Oh.
here's a good word for you.
Mm-mm. Yeah, $2 million. That's a lot
Commanded.
of money.
Yeah, commanded is a good word because they use words like fetch, Well, that piece of art fetched $22 million, or that piece of art was so strong it commanded $22 million. Anyway, so this person who owned it would go to the auction house. The auction house would say, we sold something like it last year. So, and it went for this much money, so we know what its value is. Right? So they would put that value on it with a low estimate and a high estimate. Now, when you look at an auction catalog, and I'm going to give you an assignment to go look at some, you will see that they'll have a description, and then they'll have 18,000-50,000. So the 18,000 is what they think is the lowest amount they will accept for the piece. The 50,000 is where they think they're pretty comfortable saying this piece will command 50,000 from a buyer, right? So that's what the estimates are in the auction house. So then they want to know the provenance. And that is the person who owned it before, the history of the people who owned it, who owned the vase or the painting or the whatever.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
2 minutes. It's going to go away. So then everybody would gather in a room, a sales room. And usually a man, a very experienced man who knew most of the buyers, because that was his job, to know the buyers, would stand up at a podium and say, lot 332. Our next lot is lot 332, and they would call it a lot because that was like saying a number, number 332. This is a piece of merchandise. We call it a lot, L-O-T. All right, so our next lot is number 332. It is a Ming vase, or it is a Tang Dynasty horse, okay? Because they like to make horses in the Tang Dynasty because they like to ride. The rich people like to ride. So they made these replicas of beautiful horses. So, and then he would say, all right, my starting bid on this, and a bid is what someone's willing to pay for something.
Yeah, I know that.
So he would say, my starting bid on this is $10,000. Or actually, if the low estimate was 18, he would probably start at 17. All right, my starting bid is 17. I hear another bid. And somebody else would put up their hand and he would go, okay, $20,000. And then he will jump the price in increments of percentages. So the next bid won't be 21,000. It's more likely to be 22,500. So that's $22,500. And that goes on until people stop putting up their paddle. They don't really put up their hand, they put up a paddle. The paddle has a number on it. That is their customer number. Because they've had to register beforehand. They've had to prove they can pay for it, and they're given a number.
Okay.
So, so then they'll just keep going up 22,500. Do I hear $25,000? Do I hear 28? And just until till the room goes quiet. And then he'll look around and he'll go, all right, Our final bid is $32,800. Going once, oh, he'll say, is a fair warning. Fair warning means if anybody's got anything they want to do now in terms of upping the bid, they better say it now. Fair warning, nobody says anything. He says, going once, going twice, and then he knocked going 3 times, sold to customer number 788, and he bangs the gavel. And that ends the sale of that piece. So that ends the sale of that piece. And customer number 777 then has to go pay for the piece. Usually he has 30 days to pay for it before he can take it home.
Oh, okay.
That's the way the auction house works. I don't know how I got to talking about all of that. But so when people in your country made a lot of money and they came to the West to buy art, they also started buying back all those beautiful pieces that had been stolen and ended up in private collections. Decorators used to suggest to their clients when they were decorating the house, oh, we should put a beautiful Chinese motif wallpaper on this wall. I saw the most beautiful Tang horse the other day in 3 colors of porcelain, which I think is called Ducat. And it's only $5 million and you should buy it.
Okay.